Welcome, cool off, relax. It's a jungle out there.
Below us is the entrance to the flight to the moon, departing for outer space every few minutes.
You know, it wasn't too long ago we had to carry water from a well. But thanks to progress, we've got a pump right here in the kitchen.
We're going to bring ghosts from all over the world, but we haven't got the ghosts in there yet. We're out collecting the ghosts.
Kindly watch your step, please.
WDW Radio, your information station.
What is the best Disney movie trilogy of all time? Should Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World get a Halloween overlay? And is Josh D'Amaro really the right choice for the next Disney CEO? This week on In and Out, we dive into these and many other questions, from top Disney attractions and controversial updates to live-action remakes, adult-only lounges, and what's next for the parks and company. And if you think you've got strong opinions, good, because loving Disney is only half the fun. The other half is debating it, and I want to hear from you. Hello, my friend, and welcome to WDW Radio, your guide to the Disney parks, movies, and experiences from around the world. I am Lou Mangello, and this is show number 835. And whether this is your first time listening or you've been with me since the very beginning, thank you and welcome home, because for more than 20 years, I've shared my love of Disney through the podcast, live video, events, cruises, and our incredible community. Thanks to you, and I am so grateful that you are here, because you're not just a listener, you're part of the WDW Radio family. A couple of quick things before we dive in. Please come be part of the community and conversation over in the WDW Radio Clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. Join me this and every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube Live. Also, get Disney in your inbox, plus a free gift from me by signing up for my free weekly email newsletter at wdwradio.com/newsletter. And take a walk through the parks with me with my free Walt Disney World audio walking tours, immersive 3D audio tours, now available free wherever you listen to podcasts. To search for WDW audio guides. And if you are a creator or entrepreneur, please join me this October in Walt Disney World for my next Momentum Weekend Workshop, a hands-on 4-day, 50-person event to help you build real momentum in your business and brand. You can find out more and get your ticket at loumangello.com/momentum. But don't wait, the early bird discount is almost ready to expire, and we're already more than 70% sold out. And if you want to bring a little bit of Disney magic to your next event, brand, or team, I speak to corporations and events on storytelling, customer experience, and creating memorable moments inspired by the Disney parks and leadership lessons from Walt. Please learn more and reach out to me over at loumangello.com. And when you're ready to plan your next Disney vacation, visit my friends over at mousefantravel.com for completely free expert and personal planning, just like I have trusted for more than 17 years. And if you like the show, and I hope that you do, please rate, review, and more importantly, share it with a friend. It helps and means more than you know. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. Welcome back to another round of In or Out, the segment where loving Disney is only half the fun and the other half is debating it. Because I think one of the best parts about being a Disney fan is just how passionate we are. I think we all love the magic, but it doesn't always mean that we see it the same way. And that's what makes this so fun. And because of that, the In and Out segment was born. And joining me again this week are some very brave or unsuspecting guests from the WDW Radio Nation and community. And to you listening at home, I want to hear your thoughts as well. If you are in or out, you can share your hot takes in the clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse, or better yet, call the voicemail. Let me hear the passion in your voice. I will play it on the air at 407-900-9391. And back by popular demand, or maybe just poor judgment, my returning guests are here and brave enough to take on another round. So I want to welcome back to the show and our In and Out segment, Connor Brown from Vacation Kingdoms and the all-new, at least to me, theme park happy hour? Question mark?
A question answered. Yes, it is indeed where I am from. couple of months old on that one. Happy to be back by popular demand, or maybe just on demand is a better way of putting it, how I was invited here today. But happy to be here, as always.
I was going to use the Kermit Muppet Vision quote, but I think it's too soon, and that wound is still a little bit too fresh. So, unfortunately, none of them showed up, blah, blah, blah. But somebody who did show up is Sean Roberson from But Mostly Disney.
Hey, thanks, Lou. I'm excited to be here no matter how I got chosen. So,
Well, listen, you guys have been here before. We did the segment. Really was sort of a trial run the first couple of times, but fortunately, people listened. They enjoyed it. So if you haven't heard before, this is how it's going to work. Or Connor, if you forgot, I'm going to make a statement. It could be about the parks, the movies, Disney Plus, Cruise Line, and you, listening at home, and my guests, Sean and Connor, are going to tell me whether you're in, you agree, or whether you're out, you don't. And then you'll have 30 seconds-ish or so to make to make your case, defend your stance, and maybe even try and sway someone to your side. And I have a very long list of prompts ready in no particular order. We're going to let the numbers and fate and chance decide, maybe a little bit of chaos. Just one question first for the both of you. Do you feel more prepared this time, or just more nervous, or you just still don't know what you've gotten yourself into?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah. I second that emotion.
Good. That is super helpful. So, all right, we're gonna dive right in. I'm actually going to take the first one and make it somewhat timely-ish, just based on some podcasts that I have done recently that put me in very much this mood. So we're going to not go to the parks first. We're going to go to the movies first. And so tell me if you're in or out. The Indiana Jones movies is the best movie trilogy, because the last two don't count, in the entire Disney library. Are you in or are you out? And I will do age before beauty. So, Tater, you're first.
Well, thanks for that. It's so
Connor's
hard.
Googling who Indiana Jones is, so that's why I wanted to give him a little bit more time.
That's really difficult because, first of all, Harrison Ford has starred in the best trilogies ever created anywhere, over and over and over again. And obviously I have a top two trilogy, and do I have to waffle? I just want to give one of Lou's lawyer answers. And so I will say I'm out, because I think Star Wars is my favorite trilogy. I think if I were on a desert island and you said I can only have one trilogy, it would be Star Wars, with Indiana Jones, literally just hanging on by a thread behind. And I know that might be unpopular, and I like all three, even Temple of Doom. There were no movies after those three, but I like those three. And I think we did the correct order the other night. It is Raiders, Last Crusade, Temple. But yeah, and if I'm doing that, then I go Empire, New Hope, or Jedi for me for that. Just to really get loose some hate mail there.
I am out. I'm out as well. I think Raiders is probably one of the most perfect movies ever made, but I don't think the other two live up to the hype that Raiders alone is compared to other Disney trilogies. I'm not going to say Star Wars. I'm actually going to shock you guys, because it's clearly the High School Musical trilogy that is. No, I'm kidding. I am absolutely kidding. No.
I thought it was going to be Frozen or Toy Story.
Toy Story. It is Toy Story. It is Toy Story for me. I think, again, we'll leave 4 out of this. So we'll start with the 3. So trilogy 1, 2, and 3. 1 holds such a special place in my heart. I think 2 is an exceptional movie. And I think 3, it gives me goosebumps even just thinking about it, brings that entire Andy trilogy together. That's why I rated that. Honestly, Indy might be the second below that, and then Star Wars after. Yeah.
When I said Toy Story, I was sort of trying to make a joke because I couldn't think about what the name of Cinderella 3 was. And then as you said it, I'm like, wait a minute, I think he's serious. This boy is mad. But listen, kudos to you for going I wasn't even thinking of it when honestly I wrote the question.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was such a big part of my childhood. Like, Gone with the Wind was a big part of your childhood when it first came out, right? And that's how this kind of works.
Remember when Connor used to come on the show? Oh, those were the days. It was. All right, wait. So I have a potential follow-up in or out question, but I have to preface it by asking you a question. Other than Walt Disney World, what other Disney theme parks around the world have you visited?
I've only been to Disneyland, so
okay.
I've only got the continental U.S. covered.
Disneyland, same here. World and Land, and also the Hilton Head Resort. We want to talk about Hilton Head? Hilton Head.
All right, so I'll ask you this. I mean, I was going to ask you sort of worldwide, but I'll sort of adjust it. Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye is a top 3 Disney attraction in the continental United States. Are you in or are you out?
I'm out. I'm out. Yep. Don't even have to think about it. I like the ride. I thought it was great. And look, it's why we love Galaxy's Edge so much, because we get to pretend we're there, and I would have worn a leather coat and gone in, and I love Indiana Jones with all my heart. But there's, again, if I was making a list of what I have, we're going next month. So next month, it won't be in the top 3 things I have to get done at Disneyland, even though it's great.
I'm with Sean again. I'm out. I think I love that ride. It's so great. But the way that Sean put it, are there 3 things I would come to mind before that? Yes, there are. And they come.
All right. So what are they? Very quickly, what are the top 3 domestic Disney theme park attractions? In no particular order, if you can't.
For me, I think Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World is one of the most exceptional rides the Imagineers have ever created. I love it so much. I think Mansion, either coast, and I think Pirates out in Disneyland, I think is just tried and true what Disney does best.
Yeah, and Pirates is my favorite ride, no matter what park I'm in. So that ride would take the top 3 spots anyway. I would just ride that 3 times in a row. But we never miss Carousel. We never miss People Mover. There's some stuff, because the nostalgia drives me a lot, that even though Guardians is probably the best ride I've ever been on anywhere, I would skip it for Pirates all day long.
I love to see that the classics remain the classics, no matter where you come from, what generation it is, what park is your favorite. I'm very much the same way in terms of, if I had to sort of pick a top 3, there's a really good chance it would probably be what we consider to be classic attraction, what our kids might consider like those really, really, really old attractions in the parks. All right, well, let's sort of stick in that same vein then, in terms of.
Hold on. Are you're not gonna stick your neck out on this trilogy? Is that how that was going to go?
I mean, yes, I try.
I don't want all the hate mail myself. That's Lou Mangello at WWD Radio.
Listen, I'm happy you got every part of that email address wrong. Is the Indiana Jones trilogy the best in the Disney library? Again, I sort of balance between that and Star Wars. And is it really coming down to, am I really balancing Temple of Doom versus the Ewoks? What I would probably rank the third versus the third. God, Star Wars was such an integral part of my childhood growing up. But I did just watch all of the Indiana Jones movies. And man, those still hold up. Those still really, really hold up. Dang it, Taylor. You know what? I'm going to say I'm out. I'm going to say Star Wars. It's just because it was just such a change in the fundamental foundation of movie making and merchandise and fandom and everything else like that. So Star Wars deserves its due. What has also been known as the Star Wars of the Disney parks. Are you in or out? The Country Bear Jamboree update is exactly what that show needed. Connor and Tater.
In. I love Country Bear Jamboree. It's not on my shelf back here, but I have a bust of Al, Big Al, right? I don't get too nervous, I'll be honest, when they are taking things away from the parks. That was one that I was very, very nervous for. I got to go and have a special preview of it with D23 and getting to hear the lead Imagineer, the lead show producer, people from the archives coming and talking about, how they had to make this change. And the Imagineer just said this. He said, I love the Country Bear Jamboree. I wanted to work on this reimagining, on this project of it. If I wanted the Country Bear Jamboree to last for 50 more years, this needed to happen. And you go in there now, there's always a ton more people waiting to get into the next show. Everyone is clapping along. There's very few confused looks like there were for the last few years at the old Country Bears. So while I will miss, Blood on the Saddle and all those songs, I do really, really, really love the current iteration. And I absolutely think that's what it needed.
So I am absolutely in with Connor as well. And I also went to that D23 early preview thing and thought it was incredible. In fact, I think I posted a video of the entire conversation. It's not a very great audio, but it's really fascinating to listen to. And I loved Country Bear as a kid. I remember it from 75 and I enjoyed it. And I love Blood on the Saddle. I mean, my buddy Andrew from our podcast, he named his truck Big Al. But I think they kept that exact feeling with what they did and made it for a new generation. Because let's face it, we are phasing out, right? It's not necessarily my park anymore. And I do fear change a little bit. But I do reserve judgment to wait and see, except for the lobby of the Polynesian. They ruined that. I am out on the lobby of the Polynesian. But
there's a lobby question coming up. So just hold on.
Let's see. But no, I love it. The music's great. I mean, like Connor said, you go in and new kids are just, their eyes are lit up. They did a flawless job. They really did.
So I do sometimes, I have this, while I have such trust in Disney and the Imagineers when they are going to make a change, I do have this fear, especially for things that have personal, sentimental, meaning for me, especially over such a long period of time, right? Memories of going with my dad. He loved Big Al, the man, not the truck. And so there's that fear of taking away something that, although I didn't go all the time, it still had meaning for me, but there is also that trust. But like you, when you sit in that show and, I watch the guests, with one eye and I'm watching the show with the other, when you see and hear the guest reaction and guest response, you hit it on the head. And when we talk about things like, cars coming into Frontierland, love it or not, or Monsters, Inc. coming and taking over Muppets, they are not building those for us. They are building those for the generation behind us that grew up with those franchises, that grew up with those characters, and they, like us, will tell their kids, this is what I grew up with. This is what I love. This is what my dad took me to. And they will pass those sort of memories and stories and experiences down generationally, because a lot of kids don't know who, Tom Sawyer and Becky and all these other characters from Tom Sawyer Island were, but they all grew up with cars. They grew up with monsters, and that is what has a lot of meaning to and for them. So I am in, even though there's my little bit of sentimental heart that misses, not that I wanted little Buford to get whipped anymore, but I do like, and I appreciate the update while still keeping one little foot in the past with some of the tributes and other references that are in the pre-show and the queue and even the show itself. So
agreed.
Let's go from Frontierland to Epcot Center. I have to preface this question by asking you, have you been to or at least seen photos or videos of the new Geo 82 lounge in Spaceship Earth?
Theme Park Happy Hour. Of course I've been there. Oh, yeah.
Sean, have you been there yet?
I've not been inside.
But you've seen pictures of it, so you have an idea.
In front of the window, like, alms for the tap dancing cat.
With your face pressed against the window, which is 2 stories up, but it's fine. All right, are you in or out? The Geo 82 Lounge is a sign that Disney should continue to add more immersive, high concept lounges across the park. So I want you to think about things like Oga's Cantina and Nomad Lounge, and now this sort of retro futuristic Epcot tribute. Sean and then Connor.
All right. So I'm in with an asterisk, because I don't think this, from what I've seen, and I have not sat in there and gotten the full emotional experience, but I don't think this is a high concept lounge. Like, it looks beautiful to me, and I think it's themed well, and I'm glad it's there. I'm not against it being there, but I mean, Disney set the bar so high on the treasure with that Haunted Mansion lounge, that how do we sit here with breadcrumbs of that and get excited, right? Like I just want to peek behind the new Pirates Lounge coming and hope that it has 20% of that in there. So I think it's great. I don't drink alcohol, but I still consume liquids. So, I would definitely do a firework show there and go sit, and it looks great. And I do love the retro theming of it, but it's just a lounge from what I've seen. It doesn't seem like it really, knocks me out of the park like that Haunted Mansion lounge, which is, they're going to have to step their game up to that.
Well, it's different, right? One is a storytelling themed experience, and this is just more in terms of design and decor. Connor?
I do. I keep those separate as well, though. Like GO82 for me is not something like an Oga's or like, the Pirate Tavern coming, right? I do think Disney should continue with this, though I think I'd prefer more things like Oga's, more things like the Pirate Tavern, more things like the Haunted Mansion Parlor, right on the Treasure and soon to be the Destiny. For me, the thing with GO82, and Sean hit on it as well, is it's whispers of Spaceship Earth. I will say it's a motif of Spaceship Earth. It's not necessarily like you're part of the story of Spaceship Earth, right? It's beautiful in there. It's a great place to chill. It's a high-end cocktail program, right? It's not I'm going to pop in there. I do this all the time. If I can get a quick walk up at Oga's, I go in, I grab a beer. I'm happy with that. GO82 is just not that kind of place. So I would love to see more lounges like this, but maybe a bit more akin to an Oga's or more pirate style things.
And I think to both your points, the Haunted Mansion Lounge on the Treasure has set the bar on a different stratosphere, I think, than even places like Oga's or Nomad in terms of theming. I will, continue to say, as of the day we are recording this, I think that the Haunted Mansion Parlor on the Treasure is the single greatest storytelling and placemaking experience for guests, period, in terms of being able to step into something and feel immersed in it, because it doesn't feel like it was inspired by the mansion. You feel like you are in the mansion, or they picked up a room from the mansion and just brought it and stuck it into that space, which feels very different than the Hyperspace Lounge does on the Wish. But I have a follow-up. I have a follow-up in or out question from this, because unlike many, I think really all the other places we mentioned, GO82 Lounge is adults only. It is 21 and up. So are you in or out? Disney should add more adults-only experiences in the parks and resorts.
I'll go first. I'll jump on this grenade first. Right? And I'm saying that as a childless millennial, right? I do think that, right? I think over the last 10, 15 years, Disney adults, whatever you want to call it, has swung that way, right? Like, this is a market. These are people that are coming to the park in droves that I don't know was the same amount, 10, 15 years ago. So I do think that there's a huge opportunity, and I would absolutely love to take advantage of those if Disney continues to do it. So I'm in.
And I'm in as well, again, with a caveat, as long as, like, I don't think GO82 takes away a kid's space, right?
Right.
Like, when I go to the park, anything I can do to get out of a child's way to have their thing is what I do. Like, I will leap into a bush. I just want them to feel the way I feel, 40 years from where they are or whatever. But, and again, we're on the cusp. Our last one goes off to college in a couple months. So it'll be just my wife and I, but we've grown our Disney love through family trips of all of us being together. And there's phases, right? You're not always holding hands. It ends, guys. And I hate it, but it does. And so we're at a place now where the kids could go off and ride Guardians, and Kay and I could go get a cocktail or a mocktail or whatever and, relax. So I like it as long as it doesn't get in the way of, not quoting Walt, that he wanted a place where families could go together and enjoy. And you could be in two different places in the same park and enjoy it, and still what I would be considered together. So I think it's fine.
I was that close For those listening to you home, my two fingers are close. Man, you had me that close to just breaking out in literal sobbing, borderline convulsing tears as you talked about kids growing up and going off on their own and doing their own things. And I hate being an empty nester. That's why I travel so much. And this is another thing too, because I've been to GO82 and it is a very elevated experience. It's wonderful in there, but I'm also a parent and my kids are older. They're 21 and almost 20. So this is a little bit sort of almost less applicable to me than it was before. But I do look around and I see these families with young kids and I'm like, well, I never like places that exclude anyone, right? I don't love private clubs. I don't love things that, there's a gatekeeper behind it, whether it's, a members only lounge, insert, whether it's DVC, Club 33, whatever it is. I mean, I like being able to be invited to go there. So please don't stop but I don't like somewhere I have to walk by a place and go, we can't go in there because A, B, C, and D. I do think, and based on how popular it is already, I do think that adults do like having this option. I think you said it right when, as long as it's not taking something away that was once for everyone, you're not necessarily losing something by gaining this. And I think GO82 is interesting because if you don't know it's there, you almost don't know that it's there. There is not this obvious doorway that, there's a bouncer standing in front of going, I'm sorry, you're not an adult, you can't come in. So because it's sort of subtly blending into the background, I think it's less pronounced for people. So I think it does serve a purpose. And having been there, and I do want to go back and do a live review of it. If only there was anybody who would go with me, but I do think is what?
Raising my hand. We're raising our hands.
Yeah, I think you have to just sort of start to be careful of starting to create too many of these adult only experiences, because then you run into the problem. Well, if we're adults and we want to go and our kids can't go, what is the option, right? If our kids are, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12, maybe you're not necessarily comfortable with them. Just like, hey, here's a roll of quarters, go run to the arcade for a few hours. I'm not saying that my parents wonderfully did that as a kid a lot, but you can't necessarily do that in Walt Disney World. So I can certainly argue it for both sides. As long as we are sticking with the lounges and the drinking and adults only experiences, I'm obviously not even going to spin the wheel. I'm just going right to the next question in my mind, which is the Grand Floridian, the birdcage inspired lobby bar, is a great idea and should be replicated elsewhere. Are you in or are you out?
All right, I'll do this one first because we've had some lively discussion around our house about this, and to kind of give my wife credit, and she brought it up, and because I'm not really a details guy, I forget these things. But the Polynesian has a bar, and even though it's not next to the check-in desk, it's right there, it's visible. Same with Contemporary. You've got Outer Rim. It's right there. I see more people drinking coffee and doing work on their laptop there than really, pounding shots of Jägermeister or whatever. But it's already, there's a precedent set. And I think for me, it may come down to more, will it change the atmosphere? Like, I don't think it's inappropriate to have a lounge there, though it seems like you could take an elevator up and already go to a lounge, right? Like, I mean, they've done a couple iterations of doing that. And this does kind of jut out into it. And I know the first, well, I won't say adult because no one calls me an adult, but the first trip my wife and I did without kids was to the Floridian. I had a sales conference, and I gave the piano player $50 to play our wedding song when he walked in, and that quiet atmosphere, she was able to notice that song was playing. She thought it was by accident, but I mean, it worked out perfectly. Will some dad from, somewhere else sitting at the bar because he's mad at his wife? I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that. I haven't experienced that. I have people, you go to EPCOT at night, it's crazy. I'm like, I'm at EPCOT a lot at night. And it's not very crazy. So I think if I really had to give an answer, I would say out, because I don't think it's needed. Not because I care that it's there. And maybe just because I have that distortion syndrome where I like things the way they are and don't want people messing with stuff.
I first want to say Sean paid that piano player $50 to play the song. Joke's on him. They would have done it for $5. So just for future reference, know that.
He played it really well.
It
was unbelievable. It was a $60 song.
I think that at the Grand Floridian is the biggest piece, right? It's how intrusive is it going to be to the piano player, right? How intrusive is it going to be taking away from the atmosphere that's currently there, right? I don't know how much it's going to add to it. I don't know if it's a popular opinion or whatever. I loved Misner's back in the day, up in the top. It was so small, it almost felt like you stumbled upon it, right? So when Enchanted Rose came and it was massive, I'm like, this is totally different, right? Took away the big band that was out there. So that took away atmosphere from it. I don't have an issue with the bar being there as well. I'll be there when it opens, right? I'll cozy up to it. I'll get a drink. I'll sit in the chairs there. I'll sit at the bar there. I think my biggest thing and my biggest hesitation is it going to take away from the atmosphere if you check in right then and there and it's really humming because of that bar? And I know they want to call it a lounge, but that is much more a bar than it is a lounge, especially when you compare it to what's upstairs. So I don't know if I said in or out, but I guess I'm in between.
Yeah, it's one of the look, and you have to imagine that Disney has figured it out, but we have to wonder how that is going to impact positively, negatively, or otherwise that peaceful, very restful, and I think we have sort of lost a little bit of that without the Grand Floridian Society Orchestra there, the same way that they used to be. That Victorian elegance that lobby has. There is a sense of serenity there that also makes it feel like an elevated experience. Is having this bar there going to start to make this space a little more cacophonous? Does it change having the piano player in there where when you walked in, there's just this very low hum? I think we as guests, we sort of like maybe subconsciously sort of lower our voices just because of where we are. And the piano player is such an important part of what the auditory experience is like. Now that you're going to get this, and we don't know like how many people are going to be there, what it's going to be like in, at noon versus what it's going to be like at 10 o'clock at night. What you can design a space and think that it's going to be something until you actually put people into it and then see that it doesn't necessarily work the same way. Disney Wish layout, I'm looking at you. However, I think it has to be one of those things that I wait and see. I think people like having a place to just go to and just sort of gather around, whether, maybe the family has gone upstairs and maybe mom or dad or both want to go down or meet some friends or other people and have just a drink in the sort of the lobby bar, which is such an important part of, many resort hotels. But because of the way this space is designed, as opposed to being it behind semi-closed doors, I just wonder what the atmosphere is going to look and feel and sound like is really what I'm starting to think and wonder in that space.
But are we in or are we out that the birdcage is gone? Because birdcage was a little creepy. This is now the bar will be, inspired by the birdcage. But are we in or are we out that the birdcage is gone?
Is that it's gone in or being replaced by this. Like, I don't, I wouldn't have cried. Right. I wouldn't have sort of cried if just the birdcage was gone because it's not like something I needed to go and see every time I was there. So
I don't have an opinion, honestly. I mean, it was fine there. It was a little creepy, but it didn't bother me. I think Gwendolyn from Cake Bake should probably design a new birdcage roof for that over there.
I think Gwendolyn should design a new space inside of the Grand Floridian that would be the perfect fit there. I haven't done a live review there either, by the way. Have you eaten quick aside, have you eaten a Cake Bake?
Yes.
I've had cakes, but not like the food. Yeah.
Okay. Here's a crazy opinion. I think the food is better than the cake.
I'm in. I'm in 1,000%. Yep.
I thought I was going to get hit on that one. That was the best po' boy sandwich I've ever had in my life. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yep.
I actually went to the original one in Carmel, Indiana. I was there for a wedding, and I think I walked in and there was some sort of American Girl doll convention going on because I was like, wait, this isn't for me. And I turned and I walked back out. So I haven't eaten there. I have tried some of the cakes, though.
Connor, if you would like to take me out to lunch, I would be more than happy to join you there.
Got it. I heard you take me out. Heard. Yep. We'll do that.
Yeah. And Sean, I agree. The food is better than, I mean, the cake is almost sort of the gimmick to get you in the door. And you almost wouldn't think the menu is extensive. It is delicious. And you want to talk about, again, an elevated experience as well.
Yeah. Now we went there right when pretty close to when it opened, and it was a flawless experience. Like, there's nothing to complain about. The service was great. The room was great. The food was great. Everything was perfect.
I'll share a very quick story. I went there for a breakfast meeting, and we sat and we had our breakfast. We were hanging out, and the staff was wonderful. Like, listen, if you want to just stay and hang out and have tea or coffee and just do your thing. We were there so long that we stayed. We just moved tables and had breakfast and lunch at the cake bake shop.
You're my hero. That's legendary. Right.
They call that the Mongello special at most places.
And by the way, as a very quick plug, Gwendolyn Rogers, the founder of the Cake Bake Shop, is going to be keynoting at my Momentum Weekend Workshop conference in Walt Disney World this October. It is going to be what I anticipate is a very fascinating conversation and interactive Q&A too, not just about how she built her business, but how she started to work with Disney. I think there's going to be a lot of lessons and takeaways for creators and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs from her. She's also, by the way, the nicest person in the world, and she is brilliant. She's brilliant. She is very, very, very smart. I'm very impressed by her. So
yeah, her story is amazing. Like, it was. I left motivated and about 25 pounds heavier. But reading her story while we were having lunch, and glitter on everything. Right? How can you go wrong?
I mean, it's just like Connor's house. There's glitter on everything.
God, just threw that up for you, Lou, didn't I?
All right, let's go from the magic to the movies. Are you in or out? Disney should keep making live action remakes because they work. And I'll qualify what I mean by that. Despite what people might say online, despite the hate and the comments and, just log on to insert social media account of your choosing. Despite what people say online, the box office tells a different story. People say they don't want live action remakes. They want new IP, but films like The Lion King and Aladdin and Little Mermaid have made huge amounts of money, while original IPs, which we've been asking for, like Elio, struggle to get traction, even with great reviews online. So are you in? Disney should stick with what is working from a shareholder and a financial point of view and keep reimagining the classics? Or are you out? Are you out with the remakes and it's time to take more creative risks and invest in something new? And then we as fans, by the way, have to show up, although I do think that the marketing for Elio could have been a little bit better and attract us more, but that's a side tangent. So are you in or are you out? Tater, then Connor.
All right. I think I'm out. As a shareholder, I want to, and that's not financial advice to buy Disney stock, but I do think that, look, Walt made all those movies, Treasure Island, Kidnapped, Light in the Forest, all these live actions funded his animation, right? As I understand it, I'm still learning a lot of Disney history, but so I get it and I respect it. And I'm the kind of person, hey, just scroll on by. I'm Pete's Dragon was one of the worst movies I ever saw. I just, the live action version, I just didn't watch it again and moved on with my life. Right. However, I wonder, as I often do, I went to see the first 4 or 5 of them, right? Like whether I liked them or not, and my kids were of the age, but it was Disney. So I'm there, right? I'm all in. And now I'm like, I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to, maybe, and so I wonder, is the money good, but does it do some brand damage because now you can't trust it? Like before, I could trust that if I went to see a Disney movie, I got my $100 in movie, tickets back for the 5 of us. Now I'm like, a little more judicious in racing out, right? Now, we haven't seen Elio, but that's just been because of timing. I am very excited to see that, or Elio, whatever it is. But Snow White, pass. What was before it? Don't remember. I don't know.
Does it diminish the magic of the original films when you do something like this, especially if it does not do? Some obviously do very, very well, but some that don't, or even if either way, does it diminish the magic and maybe even the integrity of the original film?
I will say this. We went and saw Lilo and Stitch, and we are a house divided. Like, I'm the last Android person in my house. Everyone else is Apple, though I did get a Mac just for eCam. But I will say that I liked it. The first 25 minutes or so, I thought it was a line-for-line remake, and I was not interested. I thought they took the story was better. I liked some of the characters. It still wasn't great. I'll probably never watch it again, but I thought that was okay. I was glad I spent the money, right? I was glad I saw it in the theater.
So I'm in on them continuing to do this with my caveat of saying, I'm not going to see any of them, right? Like, I probably won't, to be totally honest with you. And I think there's a couple of reasons. One, Sean, to your point, you're talking about you take your family to the movies, it's $100. The reason Disney is probably doing this is because, are you willing to take a $100 gamble on something you know nothing about? Or are you more inclined to take a $100 gamble on something property-wise you do know, right? Whether it's good or bad at the end of the day, I think that's besides the point. What gamble are you willing to take now that tickets are more expensive than back in the day? I think if we look to the other company down the road, right? Universal did a live action remake this summer as well for a film that is very, very, very new when compared to these other live action remakes, right? Disney's kind of doing the same thing in next year, the year after, I can't remember when it is, with Moana, right? So I think what's happening now is they are targeting the people that love the original in hopes to get them out for that. Not everyone's going to love every single original, but the people that love Lilo and Stitch love it because of their time growing up, right? The Moana kids are going to go because it's still the most popular streamed movie on Disney Plus, the animated one, right? I am in for the sole fact that they work. They might not work for me, but I hope that all that money coming in gets funneled to projects that I do enjoy, whether it's in the parks, whether it is some swings that they are still taking with new property like Elio, like other things that might not be working out, but they are getting a lot of money in for it.
Yeah, and look, to your point, Connor, I just saw How to Train Your Dragon in theaters. Like, I paid and went with my whole family, and that was money really, really well spent. Like, it's scene for scene, shot for shot, angle for angle, a remake of the original, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I'm like, this is the way I want to feel when I see a Disney live action remake. But I do also understand, too, as someone with kids who sometimes you're like, hey, kids, sit down. I want you to watch this movie that I loved growing up. And they're like, oh my God, Dad, this thing is so old. It's so lame. Does this afford parents the opportunity to say, I know you might think that The Lion King is old. I know you might think that this is old, but here is a remake that I understand because I know it is going to be the shot for shot, but now I can have this shared experience with my child. Right? We keep sort of talking about this generational interest in things, whether it's in the theme parks or in the movies. Clearly, it is paying off. Like, clearly, there are a lot of people who are going to see it, and probably a lot of people going to see it more than once, like, a lot of us did for movies that we loved from Disney in the past.
Agreed. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's almost July in the time of recording this, which means it's almost spooky season in the parks. You guys have talked about how you've been to Disneyland. Have you gone to Disneyland during the fall or winter during some of the seasonal overlays for attractions there?
I have not.
I've been there for Christmas time.
Okay. So whether you've seen it or not, I think you can still answer this question because I love spooky season. I love Halloween. So the Tower of, we were talking earlier about, well-themed attractions and storytelling. The Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World should receive a seasonal overlay for Halloween, just like Haunted Mansion Holiday in Disneyland. Are you in or are you out? the Tower of Terror should receive a seasonal Halloween overlay?
I don't know. It's a slippery slope for me. I'm out. It's a slippery slope for me because I absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, right? Which was the former Tower of Terror in California Adventure. The reason I love it so much is because we still have our original Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World. And again, I think it's just a perfect attraction. For me, it's a slippery slope because I think, okay, we have this overlay. Now what? Right? I mean, I don't think the Twilight Zone is pulling people in. People are getting drawn to that attraction because it's massive and it looks scary and it's so thrilling and it's incredibly well done. What's next, right? All of a sudden there's an overlay and now you know what? We're actually going to redo it fully. That's where I get very, very, very anxious for that. And then the Haunted Mansion Holiday aspect of it. I have seen Haunted Mansion Holiday out in Disneyland. It's awesome, but it's like 6 months of the year now, right? I mean, it's like August all the way through into January when they have to shut down and redo it. That's a huge, huge, huge time frame. So I don't know how long it would occur for the Disney World version.
And I think I'm going to go out too, but not for me, for other people. So, yeah, because I don't mind it. I think it's fun. And I've seen Tower of Terror, I know what it's like. I've got it ingrained in my heart, but like Connor said, it's kind of Rodney, oh, Lord, looks good on you, kind of thing. You guys do that in California. That's a great idea. But I mean, that's the thing is if I had never thought of this, but when there's so many people that come to Disney World who are coming once, right? Like it's such a destination from Brazil or England and these people who are scraping together because I know what it costs to get there, to go. Haunted Mansion has been wait, what? Who's here? Jack Scala. I hated, if they hate it and you, like Connor says, you've taken up 6 months of the year with a month on either side to put it up and put it down, now you've maybe ruined somebody's trip for something pretty temporary. And I hadn't even thought about the fact that if it gets adjusted a little, maybe it gets adjusted all the way. Now I'm really scared. But
now I will say Monsters After Dark out in California, right? I don't know if they still do that, but wasn't it like the last hour of the night they would do this special overlay at Guardians of the Galaxy during the Halloween season? So yeah. It's maybe that's it, but again, all of a sudden it's 1 hour at the end of the night. And it's 2, then it's 3, and then it's 12 months.
Well, something, and if you could flip a switch and do it, right? Like, so,
right.
So when we did, like I was involved, when Lou did his Tip Top Club event, which if you don't follow Lou, and you're not a member of the nation, please subscribe. There's no affiliate link for me, but
got a referral code. Come on, man.
Right. Exactly. The cool thing about, and it's been gnawing in my head since then, that you could do that anywhere and press a button and it's, Bluey, and you press another button and it's Star Wars, and you press another button and it's an NFL draft room. I mean, the way the room was set up with all these LED screens and then the permanent things really fit about 94 different decors. So if you could do that, like Connor suggested, hey, at midnight on Halloween night, we're going to do Tower of Terror haunted, whatever. And so for the last 2 or 3 hours, then it's something different. But tomorrow when, Nigel comes over from Kentworth and it's his one time to ride it, he still gets to see what he paid for. That would be cool.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things in play, and look, I love, and it's part of the reason why I was asking you what you've experienced out there, because I love Halloween and Halloween time and Christmas time out in Disneyland. There's 2 things. One, when they do the overlay, which is not even really an overlay, but they sort of switch the Guardians experience there. It is, for all intents and purposes, the flipping of a switch, because the screens change, the music change, and that's it. And that they can swap back and forth. Whereas Haunted Mansion Holiday is a process that takes months. The attraction is closed. When people go, it's something new. I think that the dichotomy of the and I'm overgeneralizing, sort of the crowds that go to Disneyland. Disneyland is very much a locals park. Right. So if an attraction is down for a little while and then there's something special there, it's not a big deal when it's closed, and it's an enhancement when it's opened. I think Walt Disney World, where the quote unquote average guest, comes with mom, dad, and the 2.5 kids once every, 4.5 years. They're coming to see the Haunted Mansion. They're coming to see the original. They don't necessarily want, one, it to be closed, two, maybe something that's an overlay for a movie they don't like, they don't associate with, whatever it might be. They want the original, the classic attraction, going back to some of our earlier conversations, the thing that they love. So I think it does work in Disneyland because of the crowd and the demographic and the expectations there versus Walt Disney World, and just how quickly and easily they're able to swap that out and swap it over. For all, whether you like attractions that are screen-based or you don't like ones that are screen-based, it does afford the opportunity, Star Tours, the Adventures Continuum, looking at you, to upgrade, enhance, change, and improve just by, putting a new tape in the VCR. So not using tapes and VCRs. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what either of those two things are, but the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind here in Epcot, they had a holiday overlay their first holiday season as well. And easy to do, right? But didn't fit for a number of reasons. So I think it's definitely tricky to get it done correctly.
Well, what about Jingle Cruise? Like, I think Jingle Cruise is okay because it's still the Jungle Cruise with an I, right? It's still the complete essence of the ride with a couple different jokes and some Santa hats, Yeah,
it's a great example. But it also, the attraction's not down, for months at a time, too. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of different factors in play. All right, I want to be respectful of your time, and I have like 300 questions on here that I can ask you, but we're running out. So I'm gonna save. I'm going to ask you one last, I'm between two that I want to sort of end off with. All right. Bob Iger, the current CEO of the Walt Disney Company, is stepping down, or so we expect, at the end of 2026, which is going to be here sooner rather than later. Are you in or out? Josh D'Amaro would be the perfect next Disney CEO.
I think this is the perfect time to announce that I am actually taking the role of Disney CEO. I've thought it over with my family, and I accept.
And I'm in. I'm in for Connor being CEO of Disney. I trust him implicitly.
Let's go. I think he has the absolute charisma, stage presence, business, acumen, or at least appears to, as someone who could easily step into that role, right? Would he be Bob Iger? No. And I think that's like the most difficult thing for people, right? I think the big thing for so long, previous Bob Chapek was the first one to come from the parks to be the CEO, right? So that other huge, massive part of the company, that is how it started, movies and entertainment and taking care of talent and directors and producers, it's a very, very, very hard skill to understand. So that's the only thing going against Josh D'Amaro right now, right? I think he's, again, so personable. You see him in the parks. He's always friendly, right? He's stage presence on stage at D23, getting interviewed by Lou Mangello, right? Like he's open and that's so great. I do think he would be great on surface level, but I think there are some nuances there that I don't know if he fully understands, or for that matter, somebody else probably ascends to that role, doesn't understand the nuances of the parks, of the fans, of the cruise lines, right? So I think either way, it's not going to be 100% Bob Iger at the beginning.
Yeah, and I'm in with him for everything I've seen, right? Like, he seems like a good steward of the mission, right? Of the where we have to go in the future, where we were in the past. He seems like he really encompasses all. He seems like a fan, right? Like, every time I hear him talk, whether it's on a reel, somebody met him somewhere, or an actual interview, he feels Disney, right? And we need that. I love Iger. I never got to know Bob Chapek enough to know whether he was great or not. Just, it could have been coincidence. I don't know. I'm going to choose the good guy. That's why I'm here with Lou. But I do, if I had my druthers, I want to see a team again, right? Because that seems what's worked the best when you had, Eisner and dreaming and someone else finding the money, or letting Roy figure it out, Cardwalk, all these people, it's always seemed to have been a team because you have both. I was on a church camp board, and we had the mission for the church camp, and then we had to pay the bills, right? And if you had someone who was, tying square knots and doing archery, that's great, but he doesn't understand, depreciation and a cost-based accounting system, so you really need either a split personality person or another dynamic duo, which is what I pray for at night when I go to bed.
So I'm going to start by saying I agree with you 1,000%. And I think that's the key. And I mean this in the most respectful way when I say that the Eisner-Wells business and personal relationship was akin to the Walt and the Roy. I think that, and I think now more than ever, I think the company may be too big for, and I'm qualifying this. There's a lot of asterisks everywhere because Bob Iger's done an exceptional job. Is the company so big that one person will have a very challenging time trying to navigate all of the different divisions of the company? If you look at all of the Disney company's holdings, from entertainment to sports to media and everything else across the board, it's not 5, 10, 15, 20 companies. There are hundreds of companies across the board that one person, man, woman, I think is no matter how talented you are in wherever your sort of your zone of expertise is. And I think Bob Iger has a very wide, very, very wide spectrum and zone and breadth and depth of knowledge and expertise in a lot of areas. I think it's challenging. I would say that I'm out on this, and I'll explain why. I like both of these gentlemen personally and professionally. I've had the very fortunate occasion to meet and chat with Josh more than I have with Bob Iger. What you see is what you get, right? The man that looks you in the eyes and is having that conversation with you and makes you feel like you are the only person in the room. This is not just me. I've watched the dynamic as he walks the park, as he talks to cast members, as he talks to guests. He is personable. Connor, you're right. He is clearly a fan, and that what he speaks comes not necessarily from a teleprompter, but from his heart. I think he's incredibly well-spoken. He's very, very, very intelligent. And he also has his finger on the pulse of not just what we as guests want and expect and are looking for, but cast members as well. It is why he is so beloved. And I think if you put him in the position of CEO, you are now taking him away from those literal and figurative touch points that he has with cast and with guest that I think is so critical, not just to the cast member success, the guests' levels of enjoyment and having expectations exceeded, but I think for him as well. I think he very much seems to feed on that. I think Bob and Josh are a great combination, a great pair. I've watched them. I watched the dynamic of the two of them on big stages and small stages and how well they complement one another. Is Disney potentially a little hesitant to bring another parks person in post Chapek? Possibly, because Josh's experience clearly is in this, in this sort of theme park vertical, and there's a lot more to this company. I would not want to be the person to, listen, God bless the person that steps in Bob Iger's shoes.
Right.
Because they are monstrous. And I don't know that you can fill them. And again, this is a bad comparison, but understand my meaning. It's like stepping into Walt's shoes. Look at the success that Bob Iger has brought this company. Look at the growth domestically, internationally, across multiple mediums, the acquisitions of companies, the expansion onto not just the big screen, but the small screen, the theme parks, the cruise line. These are massive, massive shoes to fill. And I don't know who the perfect person is for it. Tater, I think that you're right. I think it needs to be almost this Walt, Roy, Bob and Josh, Michael and Frank type of combination. Now, you can't necessarily do that. You have a CEO that, like Walt, I think Bob Iger was also like Walt in that they surrounded themselves with the people who were the very best at what they do.
Right. Yeah.
And I think Bob Iger surrounded himself with staff. I think he also surrounded himself in terms of acquisitions. We as a company are not necessarily reaching this demographic. We're not doing this well. Let's just go buy that company, right? Let's go buy Pixar. We're not reaching, teenage to young adult boys. Let's go buy Marvel and Star Wars. And it works, but it does sort of follow, I think, in my mind, that same idea of surrounding themselves by the people who are the best at what they do. That is the sign of an exceptional CEO. And while I think Josh can do the job without question, I want to see him where he is. I think he shines here in that leadership role. And I think he also is this very human, very personal sort of touch point that I would not want to lose by seeing him move up the ranks and out to California.
I think one big thing, though, is these people are very, very, very ambitious, right? It wasn't too long ago that Josh was just in charge of Adventures by Disney, right? And now all of a sudden he's in charge of everything, parks and merchandise and all that stuff, right? When you're kind of getting groomed and trained for this potential position, even though you've been somewhere your entire career, if you don't end up getting it, where does that leave you, right? How much is your ego in play with that, right? I think that that's another scary part of it too, that if he doesn't get it and he stays in his current position, is he a growth, junkie and he just wants to continue to grow and he's going to look for a different opportunity, and now maybe you lost out on that too. Yeah, I don't envy anyone who is in this position, though I do envy them because I'll take a board seat. I'll just one board seat. I don't need.
I'll give it a shot.
I'll give it the old college try, right? But yeah, I think that's the thing, and I agree with both of you. I think we should bring back Eisner. You just said that, right? Yeah.
I don't know if I said that I would bring back Eisner, but I also don't know. Look, again, I think, and this is not to take, and I certainly don't know Josh well enough to speak to this, but I think the concern might be, is he so theme park focused for a CEO role that also has to oversee media and streaming and global strategy, which clearly is a huge focus for the company right now, not just in terms of theme parks, but cruise line and other experiences. And again, online and streaming media as well. So if not Josh, then who, right? Is it Dana Waldman, the co-chair of Disney Entertainment, who does oversee that massive TV and streaming and content leader? She has a history of very strong leadership background over at 21st Century Fox before the acquisition, less experience with parks, consumer products, again, maybe sort of company-wide branding. I know Alan Bergman's name has been thrown around as well in terms of he's been on the film side, the Marvel, Pixar, Lucas animation, been with Disney 25 years. Again, he's not somebody that has a very high public profile. What is the leadership strategy that they're looking to follow Bob Iger with, right? Is this continuing this idea of more growth, more expansion, more? Listen, whoever walks in the door has got $60 billion to spend on the theme park. So they're in a very enviable position in that regard.
But does it all trickle down from that? It all started with the mouse. I mean, some companies, GoPro or whoever they own, who cares? It's not really their focus on that. But streaming, cruise ships, everything, does it all apex right at the top, with that park mentality and what they do for their customers, because that Disney customer service elevates everything. And can you run hard businesses and still stay true to that? I don't know. Maybe that's what Roy, and those guys and Wells did. Maybe they deflected all that so that you could keep that mission alive. And that's, you put somebody who's an accountant in charge, they're going to do the business well, but they're not going to have the brand, cradled properly. It's tough. I'm with you. I was thinking you guys were talking on an episode of the podcast about whether a casino would go on the Japanese, the Asian cruise ship. Because that's a huge part of their culture. And just because it's not ours and it's very anti-Disney here in America, does that make it anti-Disney somewhere else? And who makes that decision? And where does, it's going to roll uphill, which is tough. So,
and look, and not to sort of go down this road of the prior Bob, the middle Bob, the Bob Chapek, who, was a finance guy. He was a business guy. I think he was brought in to do a very specific job in terms of the economics, and maybe clearly did not necessarily resonate with fans and maybe executives and cast as well. I think that's a tough, and look, I was thinking back too, remember Tom Staggs, the former chief operating officer? He seemed to be Eisner's heir apparent for a long period of time. He has since left the company, but he was somebody who had very deep experience in the parks and finance and operations, very familiar with and I think sort of bore Disney's DNA. I'm not sure that there's any, that there's any scenario where Tom Staggs comes back, but what to us might seem, well, this is clearly the person who's going to step foot in. It does not seem that anybody has really taken a very clear step. And maybe there's hesitancy from people too. Maybe they don't want this role, which, I have to imagine to a certain degree is thankless and comes with it a lot of pressure. I know they make a lot of money too, but there's a lot of day-to-day pressure. And I could not imagine what it's like to be Bob Iger for a day.
Ever since the guy whose name is on the door, Walt Disney, decided, hey, I'm going to market my company by putting myself out there, right? By going on the shows, by becoming Uncle Walt, right? That role, the leader, forget the name, whether it's CEO or president, right? Or chairman, the leader of the company is outward. Everyone knows him. They know the name. They know the face, right? He started that. And from there, that's why the CEO of Disney is probably the most well-known CEO in any of the major American companies, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's so crucial and so difficult. And you can't compare it to, the CEO of Target, right? It's like, this person, they're out there, they're marketing the company just as much as they're running the business. And that's where all this extra baggage comes into play.
Well, and it's nice because Disney fans don't have strong opinions and they're very forgiving about change and trying new things. So, it's really a really nice sandbox to play in where you have complete autonomy and forgiveness from everyone.
Yeah. And, Connor, when you were saying that, it made me think, not every executive is public facing the same way. Whether you liked him or didn't like him, whether you liked his persona or not, you sort of got the sense that Michael Eisner wanted to be a little bit more like Walt. He wanted to be on TV. He wanted to be in front of the camera. He wanted to be not just the executive leading the company, but the face of the company, the voice and the personality of the company. He certainly was not Uncle Walt, but if you remember, he was on TV and in the theme parks, on screens a lot. Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, certainly not so as much. Do we as fans, do we want more of that? I think it obviously depends on the person. And I think the next, 12 to 18 months as we get close to figuring out who the next CEO is going to be and that transition, what that's going to look like, what the leadership style, what the strategy is going to be going forward across this very large, very wonderfully entangled, corporate strategy, both domestically, globally, in real life in the theme parks, emerging technologies, etc. There's a lot to unpack and uncover. This is not going to be nor shall it be the last time that we talk about the future CEO of the company. We could talk. Listen, I've got plenty more questions. I have plenty more to talk about in terms of just this, but I want to hear from you, our friend who is listening. What are your thoughts? What are your hot takes? I'm going to put all these questions in the clubhouse over at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. You can come be part of the community and conversation. Again, whether it's who the next CEO is or anything else we've chatted about, I'd love for you to call the voicemail at 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WDW1. Leave your thoughts. Let me know if you are in or out on any of these things, and I will play it on the air. Taylor Robinson and Connor Brown, thank you guys. It is always so good to see you. Next time we do this, we should do it together in person somewhere in Walt Disney World on one Connor Brown. But in the meantime, please, Tater then Connor, tell people where they can find you.
I think you can, usually kind of lurking around the WDW Nation clubhouse. So I'm on there a lot, but mostly Disney. If you just Google, but mostly Disney, I think I have everything locked up there. YouTube channel, some social media. We do a live podcast with another WDW member on Tuesday nights. Swing by there and jump in the chat. And I would feel bad about advertising that, but Lou's the one who started it. So it's your fault that it exists at all.
I love good people who are doing good things, and Connor. So that's why I want you guys to share out, because I want people to come. Listen, I've always believed, man, and you guys know this, at least I hope you know this. I think there's room for us all to, like, all of us to win and all of us to reach like-minded people who are just sharing good stuff. So that is why I want people to try and find you.
That's why we love, and you can find me at Momentum this fall in October, 4 days. So don't miss that.
That's what we call a tease. Looking forward to that. I am an Orlando local as well. So each week I send out a weekly newsletter where I talk about the one thing I did in the parks the previous week. Go to vacationkingdoms.com/email to sign up. And then you can also find me at Vacation Kingdoms and at Theme Park Happy Hour across the social medias.
Nice. I'm going to have to check out that Theme Park Happy Hour thing one of these days.
It's not Drunk Disney?
It's not. No. I'm getting some bad press. That is not the name of it.
All right. My last question to you, as long as we're talking about places to go and just, whether you're having a cocktail or a non-alcoholic libation, end this off by telling me, if we could just snap our fingers and the three of us just get together at any lounge, what is the best lounge in all of Walt Disney World?
Well, I just checked the weather so that we could know what temperature it is right now when you're snapping those fingers. And it's 78. It's very nice right now. I'm going to go Geyser Point. I love going there. Nice. I love just chilling, watching, looking out at the lake. It is pristine there.
And I think at that temperature too, I might sit over at the new Polynesian Tower at the Honolulu. Yeah. Oh man, I'm falling in love with that place. I just tried their burger. It's incredible. That spam musa. Oh my gosh, it's so delicious. And apparently, it has the best non-alcoholic pina colada on property. So,
arguably the best view of any lounge on property. Waialulu. I first almost said Nomad. Then I'm like, oh, it's so far away, and if you don't get the good seat outside and the big cushy chairs. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. No, Geyser Point. It's totally Geyser Point. And now I might be on the Waialulu Trail. It may have the best food of any lounge on property. And definitely the best view. All right, we're going to have to make a Wednesday night Wednesday night live show and record or something, or just eat something there together. Fellas, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Bye, Connor.
Bye.
Time for this week's Disney Trivia Challenge to see how well you know the magic, memories, and hidden treasures of Disney. If you think you know the answer, you can enter for a chance to win a Disney prize package. This week's trivia contest is brought to you by my favorite foodie event of the year, the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Classic, happening November 15th and 16th. It's a Friday and Saturday, right in the heart of Walt Disney World. It is an amazing night of incredible food, drinks, live music, and true Disney magic under the stars. Because your ticket includes, get this, unlimited, I'm not kidding, food and beverages with dishes from award-winning chefs, wines, beers, creative cocktails from around the world, all as you stroll the beautiful causeway between the Swan and Dolphin resorts. It really is one of the highlights of my year. And look, if you love Disney, food, and just having a great night out, you are going to love it too. I would love to see you there. Tickets are on sale now, and you can get all the details over at Swan Dolphin Food and Wine Classic.com, and I really hope to see you there this year. Now, before we get to this week's question, let's go back, review last week's, and select our winner. So last week we were talking all that Indiana Jones in the Disney parks, and your question was to tell me, what's the name of the interactive mobile game that you can play in the queue at the Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland? First, thanks to so many of you entered, got this one correct, or didn't even know that this game existed, but that the answer is, of course, the Indiana Jones Adventure The Gifts of Mara. And this is an interactive mobile game that you can play in the Play Disney Parks app, and it's completely free. And it's really designed to help enhance your queue experience for the Temple of the Forbidden Eye attraction, because you get to become an archaeologist assisting Dr. Jones. So while you're waiting in line, you can look through Dr. Jones' diary, decode some of the ancient Mara glyphs, translate the inscriptions, collect digital artifacts and treasures, and learn more about the legend of Mara and the 3 gifts promised: riches, youth, and visions of the future. It really helps add a deeper story layer to the queue and reward guests for exploring the environment around you. It helps turning the wait into a fun, free little adventure, and it helps make the experience more interactive, more immersive. You sort of forget that you're waiting, just as if you were part of Indy's expedition team. This is something that is very cool. It's still active. I'm actually going to go play it when I go to Disneyland next week, during and then after our WDW Radio Group Adventures by Disney trip to Disneyland in Southern California. And I'll try and share some of that experience with you on social and maybe record a video as well. Anyway, I took all the correct entries, randomly selected one. Last week, you were playing for a WDW Radio keychain, stickers, pin, and a mystery prize. And last week's winner, randomly selected, is Amanda P. So Amanda, congratulations. Your prize package is already on the way. And if you played last week and didn't win, that's okay, because here's your next chance to enter in this week's Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. So in this week's In or Out segment, we talk about some of the current and future lounges coming to the Walt Disney World parks and resorts. But tell me, what was the name of the original bar or lounge at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa before it was rethemed and became the Enchanted Rose? What was the name of the original bar that was in that location before it was the Enchanted Rose? Now, I'm going to give you an extra week to answer this because I'm going to be traveling next week for our Adventures by Disney. I'm going to be staying in California for a few more days, so I'm not going to be sure if I'm going to be able to get a show up, and if I do, I might not be able to get the trivia done. So I'm going to give you until Sunday, July 20th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern to go to WDWRadio.com, click on this week's podcast, use the forum there, and in addition to the keychain, stickers, pin, the mystery prize I'm going to give you in next week's prize package is going to be from Disneyland. So good luck and have fun. Thank you again for listening, playing along, and being part of the WDW Radio family. I am so sincerely grateful for you, and I hope that you found a little bit of magic, some laughter, maybe even learned something along the way on this week's show. I am leaving this Saturday for our WDW Radio Group Adventures by Disney to Disneyland and Southern California. I'm going to be sharing a lot on social, primarily on Instagram, so please follow along, connect with me there. I am at Lou Mongello on Instagram as well as on Facebook. I'll be posting in the Clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse, and of course going live when I can, so turn on notifications there. And as always, my friend, and you are my friend whether we have met yet or not, all I ask is that if you enjoy the show, to please help spread the word, share the show, and tell a friend. Remember to be kind, to choose the good, have a great day and even better tomorrow. So until next time, stay hungry,